We're now hearing that the plans to target Huawei had been sitting on the table for months.
Yeah, absolutely, Sherry. So what we're hearing from the sources in D.C. is that indeed officials there and parts of the apparatus, the lawmaking apparatus, have been working through these potential or these restrictions that were put into place towards the end of last week around the executive order banning Huawei from the US market, and then, of course, the blacklisting. Have been working on these options for a number of months, but as you say, have been concerned that if they pulled the trigger on them, it would have potentially derailed the trade talks. And of course, everything changed when those trade negotiations broke down, and then these orders were put in front of President Trump, and they had to scramble pretty quickly, the Commerce Department and others, to get these executive orders and this blacklisting implemented. And of course, there's concern amongst US officials, we're being told as well, that at some point Trump could still use this as part of the trade negotiations to walk back these actions. Of course, many in the security establishment, particularly in DC, are concerned that these actions continue to hold on Huawei, which they see as a major threat to cybersecurity, for example. We had the example of ZTE, which back in 2018 faced some pretty stiff penalties from the US and was almost brought to its knees. And then, of course, President Trump, as a favour to President Xi, walked back some of the actions that have been put in place around ZTE. So there are those US officials who are concerned that the same things may happen again. From the Huawei perspective, they seem to have got some sense that this may have been coming down the line because, of course, they tell us they've been hoarding components for the last 3 months or so.
So, Tom, Huawei been hoarding components. How about the rest of its plan to adapt to these restrictions? Do we know anything more?
Well, they've come out, one of their senior executives, the head of their European operations, Abraham Liu, saying and telling reporters in Brussels that around the operating system, they were now designing and working on their own in-house operating system. They were also holding talks with rivals to Google to see if there are some options there, because, of course, this blacklisting has made it very difficult for Google to continue their partnership and their cooperation with Huawei. Take a listen to what Abraham Liu had to say about the broader implications of these actions against Huawei.
Huawei is becoming the victim of the bullying by the US administrations. This is not just an attack against Huawei. It is an attack on the liberal, rules-based order, and this is dangerous.
So, Paul, as you say, they've been hoarding components, as we just discussed, I should say. They've been hoarding components. Now they're looking at building out their own operating system, but that is going to be an uphill struggle because to get the apps, the interface, they will likely need some cooperation with US companies. That looks very difficult at this stage.